Hello everybody, this is Iced Blood. Welcome back to Resident Evil 4. First off, for those who celebrate, hope you had a fantastic Easter Sunday. Today, we're going to be tackling Chapter 1-2. This video is going to be a bit different compared to previous episodes. This first area here is a long, rather drawn-out fight, kind of the first test of your skills. You could say that about the Village Square fight, but as I showed in a previous episode, you can cheese that fight very easily and get through it without wasting any ammunition or even taking a hit, because it's time-based. This one isn't. You have to get through the entire area. You can't just wait. You might be able to avoid actually fighting. I think you might be able to run through this place. See, what you need is an emblem in two halves, and each half is in a treasure chest found in this area. Why? Because treasure chests are awesome, even if they're impractical. You'd think if they wanted to keep a door locked, they would hide the key somewhere inconspicuous, but, well, to each their own. Maybe it's a cultural thing. In any case, I usually, by which I mean always, fight through this spot. Couldn't necessarily tell you why. I guess it's just fun. I mean, I like the combat in the game, and I tend not to avoid it. I am not a speedrunner by any stretch of the imagination. But anyway, there are no real new tactics here. No new phrases in Spanish to parse, no new storyline elements in this area to go over. It's just a gunfight. So I wanted to take some time here in this section to kind of talk about the project in general. First off, what is it that you, the audience, would like to see? If you have any particular suggestions, any requests, any weapons you'd like me to try, or challenges you'd like me to do, things like that, please don't hesitate to let me know. I've played this game a lot, and I'm definitely interested in some new takes on it. Anything you'd like me to cover, whatever, just let me know in the comments, send me a message, maybe leave a link on Facebook, something like that. Whatever you want to do to let me know what you want out of this Let's Play, don't hesitate. The audience is just as much a part of any art form as the artist. I'm not necessarily saying that my commentary is artful, but for the sake of argument, I will be considering Let's Playing an art form. It's performance, and some of my favorite entertainers in recent years have proven that. Whether or not I am counted among that illustrious group is open to debate. Anyway, there's that first treasure chest I talked about. Very easy to spot, which, like I said, begs the question, why would they bother in the first place if it were that easy to find? Another thing I wanted to mention while we're going through picking these guys off one by one and basically engaging in terrorism. Really, I'm not entirely sure why Leon feels justified in killing everyone in his path. Or why I feel justified, for that matter. I told you before that one of my least favorite parts is the storytelling, and I also said that that didn't mean it was bad. And I stand by that. I really do. This is, like I said before, this is definitely more than the sum of its parts. On the other hand, one of the issues that a lot of people that I've seen take issue with is the fact that this story is very tangential to the main Resident Evil mythos, shall we call it. For those of you who may not be aware, Resident Evil has a rather long pedigree. Been around for a long time, and it's long heralded as, if not the first survival horror franchise, then definitely one of the most prolific, one of the most influential. It's pretty historical, and the crux of that has always been zombies. The first game was set in a haunted mansion, and you killed zombies and mutant animals until you escaped. Very simple, very clean, quote-unquote, not much to it, not much nuance, and really later installments didn't add much in the way of complexity. Sure, the story can get convoluted, I will admit that, but really it is a pretty simple thing. The issue, of course, is the crux of the whole thing is the T-virus, the biological contagion that turns living people and dead bodies into flesh-eating monsters. We are not dealing with the T-virus, or even the G-virus, which was a variant that was in the second game in the franchise, the one where Leon Kennedy, our intrepid protagonist, originated from. This is a whole different kettle of fish. We haven't discovered exactly what it is, but if you remember that cutscene, we got injected with something. Whatever that happens to be, it is not a virus. It is not the same contagion that we dealt with in previous installments of the game. So it's very easy to call this storyline even trivial. Whether you agree with that or not is definitely, it's your call. I'm not going to argue with it either way. But it is a side story. The main mythology of the franchise picks up again in Resident Evil 5, to varying degrees of success depending on who you talk to, and then it's further extrapolated on in Resident Evil 6. Most people seem to think it did it rather badly in that one, but never mind. The point is, a lot of people wonder, why are there no zombies in Resident Evil 4? My guess, change of pace. Prove that the world is more than just one bioweapon created by one company. Umbrella is really not involved in this game at all. The only thing that we see is that initial cutscene when Leon talks about what happened to Umbrella in the 6 years between the first game and this one. And of course the only interweaving thread are a couple characters, first being Leon, of course, and we'll see a couple others as we move on. This group that we're trying to find, who has the president's daughter, has nothing to do with Umbrella, nothing to do with the T-virus, nothing to do with zombies. They have their own agenda, which adds to the world's mythology, I would say, but doesn't have anything to do with the main plot thread. So it's a fair criticism to say that this is trivialized. There's not much to it. And I can kind of see that. I think the main thing that this game offers is a revolution in other things, such as gameplay, such as pacing, and changing up the formula. I mean, what better way to revitalize a formula in a game franchise than by completely changing the focus of it? Alright, here we have the second chest. We've already found the first one. We have the right half of an emblem. Again, there's that symbol. And then we'll go back to the other one and pick that up. And along the way, we'll take a look and see if we can find anything else. So I believe that this fight certainly lasted quite a bit longer than the first fight in the village, but thanks to some more weapons and change of terrain, it was a little easier to handle. Certainly we probably took more damage, all in all, but thankfully it wasn't that bad. Here we have the other half of the emblem, and now we can leave. Check some corners. See what we can find in here. Hey, a yellow herb. Awesome. You can combine a yellow herb with just a green herb if you want. I tend to wait for the reds, but there's no need to do that. You cannot use a yellow herb by itself. The only herb you can use on its own is the green. The green is kind of an intermediary for the other effects. You can't use the red on its own either. Nothing up there. So we'll just use that emblem we found and see what's behind this big, ominous-looking door. There we go. The sheer lack of any musical cues in certain sections really bridge the gap between big fights, keeps things suspenseful. I think that's one of the bigger parts of this, because one of the bigger debates is whether or not the Resident Evil series suffered from the change that this game made to the formula. I'm sure you can tell just by looking at my inventory here. Ammunition is not particularly scarce, which was a big part of the previous entries. When you're in the mansion in the first Resident Evil, or when you're in Raccoon City escaping in 2 and 3, one of the bigger problems you have is a lack of resources. So it's usually a lot better idea to run than it is to fight. It's part of the strategy involved. You have to be very careful what you use your ammunition on, because you don't have enough to handle everything. One of the biggest changes that this installment made was allowing enemies to drop ammunition and finding it more regularly, just by breaking them down like wood crates and those barrels that we found. And the advent of currency and buying certain items. In particular, you might have noticed when we were at the merchant that first time, we were able to buy a rocket launcher. I didn't. I usually do primarily for boss fights, because the rocket launcher, as befitting its nature, is a very, very powerful weapon, and tends to be a way to kill a boss in, if not one hit, then very few. So, a lot of people you might find online will tell you that the game is somewhat trivialized. It's not as dangerous anymore. It's not as hard. It's not as true to the source material. And you know what? That may be true. Maybe it isn't survival horror anymore. Maybe it's action horror. Maybe it's survival action. Maybe it's dramatic horror. Maybe it's something else entirely that I haven't thought of. Maybe it's some genre in a different language. Whatever it happens to be, I'm not one to get stuck up on tradition too much. And this might come down to the fact that this was the first Resident Evil that I really, really got into. I mean, yes, I did beat number 3, but it wasn't something that I revolved my life around. In fact, when I got it, it was for a birthday present, and my uncle, who was there, was more excited about the game than I was. This isn't to say I didn't love Nemesis. I did. It's awesome. But it didn't change my life. It wasn't revolutionary. It wasn't incredible. I feel like this definitely was. There's an issue you will run into with the shotgun. The more distance, the less effective it is. So this isn't exactly useful. I'd be much better served to use my handgun there, but I happened to get some good luck and got an explosion, which killed off the rest of the enemies right here. Lots of bear traps in this room. Getting a headshot is easier generally with the shotgun, but again, usually only if you're right up next to the enemy when you shoot. Like that. I believe that there is another treasure in this area, but I never hammered out exactly how to get it. And really, you're usually never at a shortage for money. It would have been useful if we had some extra. We could have bought the TMP back when we first saw the merchant. Having a submachine gun is nice. Not the most effective weapon in the game. Definitely not my favorite. That's lovely. That's bit of embarrassment. I usually avoid those, but sometimes if you're not paying attention, which I have a propensity to do on occasion, It can cause issues because, as you can see, they do a decent stretch of damage. Can't believe I got 2 in a row. Alright. In here we are met with absolute silence and water. A wonderful combination. This is really solid level design, I feel. Everything feels connected. It feels fitting. I don't play this and think, oh, I'm in a video game and this is the sewer level, or, you know, oh, this is the warehouse level, or whatever. I mean, I am, technically, but it does feel like a real place. Down here is something very special. If you drop down, you will notice not only are there a couple items, but there are also fish. Now, the thing about these fish, see how much inventory space that takes up? There's a reason for that. That particular fish will heal all of your health. There are some smaller fish, much harder to get to. You can probably see them hovering in the water there. Try to get with my knife. It's much easier actually to shoot them. I could have sworn I got that one, but apparently I just pissed it off. Oh, flash grenade. We haven't run into those yet. Those are fun. Anyway, it's easier to shoot these fish. Shotgun's obviously easiest. You don't necessarily have to aim very carefully. But they are good healing items. Depending on the size, it's more and more potent. The smallest ones do a little bit. The bigger ones, kind of like a white chicken egg versus a brown versus a gold. The big one that we got, that was a full health, that was a gold. It makes up for the fact that it takes up so much space by being easy to get. It's kind of a healing station almost. To think of it like a fairy fountain in Zelda. Let's make sure to get these ones. And up we go. We're in somebody's backyard. Let's rearrange some things. There we go. Now we're ready. Here we have a puzzle. This is the first time I've quite understood what this thing is. What we have to do is that. We want the symbol to be upright and facing us. It's a pretty easy puzzle. There's no particular rhyme or reason for it. I would tell you if it were difficult, you know, which steps to take to get it, but it's pretty simple, so no big deal. Grab the key. There's the insignia again. I swear that's a scorpion. Symbols all over the place. It's like a cross or something. The chief's note. As instructed by Lord Sadler, I have the agent in confinement alive. Why keep him alive? I do not fully understand what the Lord's intentions are. I would, however, think he'd keep them separate, not confine them together, as has been ordered. I don't expect Louis would trust a stranger, but if by chance they did cooperate, the situation could get a bit more complicated. If for some reason any unknown third party is involved, I don't think they'd let a chance like this slip by. But maybe it's all Lord Sadler's ploy, leaving us vulnerable so that this third party will surface, if they even exist, that is. It's an unlikely possibility, but if a prowler's already amongst us, then our plans could be ruined. I guess the Lord thinks it's worth the risk, if we're able to stop whatever conspiracy is at work. At any rate, it's the Lord's call. We will trust his judgment as always. Notice that the actual text on the document in the background there is the message. Not exact, though. I did like the touch of that, though. You can actually read it. Now, right here, we are hearing some more Spanish. This is actually a conversation that we're hearing. Talking about a rumor of a foreigner among us, and that the boss will take care of the rat. Apparently that's the boss, and apparently we're the rat. There's a mention in that conversation about La Plaga. And that's our first indication that we're dealing with something that isn't the T-virus.
Nevertheless, you're an outsider. Just remember, if you become unpleasant to our eyes, you'll face severe consequences.
Well, that's nice.
Same blood.
And he just walks away. Alright, well that's the end of chapter 1-2. So, it's been about 20 minutes, so we're going to cut here. We will save. Like I said, not exactly a traditional video. I'm trying to change things up a little bit, depending on what sort of section we're dealing with. Hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.